Ladies and gentlemen, there's a moment in every person's life when the weight feels unbearable, when the world seems to be closing in, and no matter how hard we try, it feels like we're walking alone. We question, we doubt, we wonder if we'll ever make it through. But what if we weren't alone? What if even in our darkest moments, there was something greater standing by us, unwavering, unshaken? There's a story about a man walking along a beach with God, looking back at the footprints in the sand. He notices that in the most difficult times of his life, there was only one set of footprints. Confused and hurt, he asks, "Why did you leave me when I needed you the most?" And the answer comes, "It was then that I carried you." It's easy to believe in something greater when life is good, when everything is working out as planned, but real faith, real trust is tested in the struggle. And in that struggle, we are not abandoned, we are being carried. Difficult times aren't proof that we've been left behind. They're often proof that we are being strengthened. It's in those moments when we think we're alone that something greater is actually closest. We may not always see it, we may not always feel it, but if we look back, we'll realize that the times we thought we were walking alone were the times we were being lifted. What gets us through isn't just our strength, it's knowing that we are not alone, that through every storm, through every setback, through every loss, we are being held up by something greater than ourselves. And when we embrace that, when we trust in it, we find the courage to keep going. Because we are never truly alone. This stays true to Simon Sinek's approach, starting with a powerful idea, reinforcing it with a story, and leading to an inspiring conclusion. Does this work for you? Difficult times can feel isolating, but we are never truly alone. Faith is tested in struggle, not in comfort. Challenges are not a sign of abandonment, they are opportunities for growth. What feels like a burden may actually be a lesson in strength. We may not always see it, but we are being carried through our hardest moments. Looking back, we often realize that the toughest times led to our greatest growth. Trusting in something greater than ourselves gives us the courage to keep moving forward. Pain and struggle refine us, not define us. Resilience is built when we believe that we are supported even when we feel weak. Hope is not found in the absence of difficulty, but in the presence of unwavering faith. Would you like me to refine or expand on any of these? There are moments in life when the weight of the world feels unbearable, when no one seems to understand, and the silence around us feels louder than ever. The struggle can make it seem as though we are walking this road alone, carrying burdens too heavy to bear. But just because we don't see someone beside us doesn't mean we are truly alone. There's something powerful about knowing that even when things seem to be falling apart, we are being held together by something greater than ourselves. It might not be obvious in the moment, but there is always a presence, always a force standing with us, guiding us, strengthening us. Think of the times when everything felt impossible, and yet somehow you made it through. It wasn't by accident. There was strength given to you in ways you couldn't see. The right person showed up, the right words were spoken, an unexpected opportunity appeared. These moments are not coincidences, they are reminders that we are never left alone in our hardest battles. Isolation is a feeling, not a reality. It tricks us into believing that we have to fight on our own, that no one is there to understand, to support, to guide. But just because we can't see help in front of us doesn't mean it's not there. The hardest moments in life are often when we are being carried the most. Looking back, the hardest seasons often reveal their purpose. The struggle that once felt impossible becomes the very thing that prepared us. The burden we wanted to escape becomes the lesson that changed us. Pain transforms into wisdom. Setbacks turn into strength. What once felt like a weight pulling us down actually pushes us forward. It's not the struggle itself that defines us, it's how we respond to it. When seen through the right perspective, burdens aren't just something to endure, they are opportunities to grow. And with every challenge, with every weight carried, we become stronger than we ever thought possible. There are moments in life when the weight of everything feels unbearable, when nothing seems to go right, when the path forward is unclear, and when every step feels heavier than the last. In those moments, it's easy to believe we are alone, left to figure it out on our own. But just because we can't see something doesn't mean it isn't there. Think about the times you've made it through what you thought was impossible. The moments when you had no idea how you'd keep going, and yet, somehow you did. Strength came when you needed it most. The right words, the right people, the right opportunities appeared at just the right time. Looking back, it becomes clear something greater was carrying you. Just like a child learning to walk, there is always a steady hand nearby, ready to catch them when they stumble. They may fall, they may struggle, but they are never truly alone. The same is true in life. Even when we can't see the help, even when we don't feel the support, we are being carried through our hardest moments in ways we may not recognize until later. The hardest seasons are often the ones that shape us the most. They teach us, strengthen us, and prepare us for what's ahead. And while it may not always be obvious in the moment, one day we'll look back and realize that in the times we thought we were walking alone, we were actually being carried all along. In the middle of a storm, it's hard to see anything but the rain. When life is at its hardest, when the weight feels unbearable, and when every step forward feels impossible, all that exists in the moment is struggle. But time has a way of revealing things we couldn't see before. The moments that felt like breaking points often turn out to be turning points. The situations we wished would end, the challenges we thought would defeat us, the times we felt lost and uncertain, those are the very experiences that shape us. Looking back, what once felt unbearable is often the reason we became stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. Strength isn't built in ease. The greatest lessons come from the hardest trials, and the most defining moments are often disguised as difficulties. When everything seems to be falling apart, something deeper is actually coming together. It's only in hindsight that we realize the struggles that once tested us actually prepared us. The doors that closed led to better opportunities. The disappointments shaped our character. The seasons of difficulty refined our purpose. What once felt like an obstacle turned out to be the very thing that made us who we are today. And while no one welcomes struggle, there comes a moment when we look back and realize we wouldn't trade those lessons for anything. There are moments in life when the road ahead is unclear, when uncertainty weighs heavy, when fear creeps in, when every step feels uncertain. It's in these moments that doubt whispers, telling us to stop, to turn back, to give up. But those who keep moving forward aren't the ones who have everything figured out. They are the ones who trust in something greater than themselves. Trust is what allows people to take the next step when they can't see the whole path. It's what keeps them standing when everything around them is shifting. It's what gives them the strength to face what feels impossible. Without trust, fear takes over. Without trust, hesitation replaces action. But when there is faith in something bigger, something beyond personal limitations, courage takes root. There is a reason people who endure the hardest trials often come out stronger, not just because they pushed through, but because they believed they were not alone. They may not have seen the way forward, but they trusted that one existed. They may not have had the answers, but they believed the answers would come. This kind of trust creates resilience, not because the journey is easy, but because it no longer depends on personal strength alone. The difference between those who give up and those who keep going is not their circumstances, it's their belief. When trust is placed in something greater, fear loses its grip. And with that trust comes the courage to take one more step, even when the way is unknown. Pain has a way of shaping us, of marking us, but it does not have the power to define who we are. In the thick of struggle, it's easy to get caught up in the weight of what we're facing. The hurt feels personal, the challenges feel isolating, and the journey seems long and unending. But while pain is inevitable, it's not a sentence, it's a process. Struggles don't have the final say, they simply refine us. Just as a sculptor chisels away at a block of stone, removing the excess to reveal the masterpiece within, pain and hardship carve away at the things we don't need. They push us to become who we are meant to be, removing the parts that hold us back, forcing us to confront our weaknesses, and challenging us to grow. When we face hardship, we are given the chance to choose, to let it define us or to let it refine us. It's easy to get stuck in the narrative of being a victim of our circumstances, to allow pain to become the label we wear. But that's not the truth. The truth is that we are more than our pain. What we go through doesn't dictate who we are, it's how we respond to it that shapes us. Struggle, when faced with perseverance, doesn't break us, it makes us stronger. It teaches us patience, resilience, and empathy. It pushes us to dig deeper, to reach further, to be more than we thought we could be. Pain is not a reflection of who we are, it's a catalyst for who we can become. It's a part of our journey, not the end of it. Resilience doesn't come from never feeling weak. It comes from the ability to keep going despite feeling that way. Life has a way of testing our limits, of pushing us to places where we question our strength, our endurance, and even our worth. In those moments, it's easy to think that we're not enough, that we can't keep moving forward, that the struggle will overpower us. But resilience is built in the very moments when we feel the weakest. The key is believing that we are not alone in those moments. It's in the times when we feel most fragile that the belief in something greater, in the support of others, or in our own inner strength becomes the anchor. When we believe that we are held, even when we feel unsteady, something incredible happens. We find the strength to keep going, one step at a time. Our greatest moments of growth often come after the hardest battles, and it's in those battles that resilience is forged. It's not about being invincible or never feeling vulnerable. It's about knowing that even when we feel weak, we are still moving forward, still being carried, still being supported. Resilience is not the absence of struggle, it's the ability to persist through it, to trust that even when we don't feel strong, we are still being held up by something greater than ourselves. Believing that we are supported, whether by others, by our own faith, or by our resilience, changes everything. It turns weakness into power. It turns doubt into belief. And it allows us to continue walking forward even when we feel like we have nothing left to give. Hope isn't the absence of difficulty, it's the presence of belief in something greater. When life is easy and everything falls into place, it's easy to feel hopeful. But true hope doesn't come from a life without struggle. It comes from the faith that something good is still ahead, even when things aren't going as planned. In fact, it's often in the most difficult times that hope becomes the most powerful. Hope isn't about ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about having the courage to believe in something beyond the immediate struggle. It's the belief that there is a purpose in the challenge, a lesson to be learned, or a strength to be gained. Hope isn't passive, it's active. It's something we choose to hold on to, even when we can't see the way forward. What gets us through the hardest moments isn't the absence of difficulty, it's knowing that there is something bigger, something we can trust, something that will guide us through the storm. It's faith that no matter how overwhelming the moment may feel, we are not walking this path alone. Hope is not a fleeting feeling, it's a deep-rooted belief. It doesn't come from external circumstances, it comes from within. It's the faith that no matter how dark the night, the dawn will come. And when we hold on to that belief, when we trust that something greater is at work, we find the strength to keep moving forward, even in the most uncertain of times. In the end, it's not the absence of struggle that defines us, but how we face it. Every challenge, every setback, every moment of doubt is an opportunity for growth. It's in the hardest moments that we find our greatest strength, not because the pain is easy, but because it is through the pain that we learn who we really are. We are never truly alone. We are supported and carried even when we don't see it. And it is through unwavering faith, even in the darkest times, that we find the courage to keep moving forward. Hope doesn't arise from avoiding difficulty, but from believing that there is something greater at work, guiding us toward a better tomorrow. It is in embracing the struggle, trusting the process, and holding on to that belief that we discover the true power of resilience.